Hello everybody and welcome back with Kak. In today's video we're going to be doing a Make and Do Monday, and I'm going to be testing out one of my new resin molds that I have. I got this on Etsy and it's a Pokemon shaker mold palette. Now I've made the little bits previously, the bits are the bit around the edge here, which you will put inside the Pokeball. So we've got different Pokemon. We have Blastoise, Charizard, Snorlax, Jigglypuff, and Pikachu. No Venusaur unusually, considering we've got the two other starters here. But I've already made some of those up, but I'm going to make the actual shaker itself now. So I'm just going to move that over to my workstation here, and then we're going to take a look at the process. So come join me. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do with this is to make the outline here, which in your typical Pokeball is black. Now it's going to be a little bit difficult because this is UV resin, and adding pigments to UV resin can make it a bit difficult to cure, especially with dark colours like black. So I've got my shiny metallic steel mica there, I've got my opaque grey, and I've got my translucent black. So hopefully I should be able to create a dark enough colour to match the black outline, or at least a dark grey outline. So I'm just going to add a few little bits. I've measured out enough here, that should be enough to, whoops, dripped a little bit there, but that's okay. It should be enough to sort of fill the ring there. So I'm just going to add the shiny pigment first. We don't really need it to be shiny, but it's always good to have a little bit of sparkle in it. So just stir that in. So as we can see, a little bit goes a long way. I must have added maybe, I don't know, not even a gram, just like a tiny little scoopful into that, and already the colour has gone all the way through. I might not even need to add the grey, to be honest, but I'll put in the translucent black first of all. This is my first time using it, so let's just snip off the saver there. Oop, there we go. And a couple of drops should be enough to darken it. There we are. Very nearly black, but it still has the metallic sheen to it. So yeah, I don't even need to add the grey. I'm just going to put that to one side. And this should be enough to fill the mould here. Well, not fill the mould, but fill the outsides. But with it being UV, I'm going to have to do it bit by bit, layer by layer. Otherwise it won't cure all the way down. So we're just going to put a little bit there. And then we're just going to sort of turn it around so that it spreads out a little more. And then we're going to put some on the other side. There we go. Even coatage isn't too much of an issue at this stage, but it probably is good to get at least a thin layer all the way around so that there are no gaps at the bottom. And just kind of use your stick here to poke it into where you want it to go. I think we're just going to need a little bit more down at the bottom here, just a little scooch. There we are. Oops. We've dropped a little bit bit there, but that's okay. We can just use the toothpick to scrape it along. I'm going to do the same on the other side here, just scrape it along, just to make sure it's all nice and clean. Make sure it's around the button in the middle here as well. Touch more in the top there. And we only want a very thin layer at a time with dark colours like this. But we need to make sure that there are no gaps. The first layer is the most important. All the way around the edge, through the middle here. Same sort of principle, scrape along the edges, and then I'm just going to turn it around to the clean side to make sure we get all of the grey off the top here. But if we don't, it's not too bad, because once we cure it we can kind of peel off any bits that we've missed. I think that is a nice even coverage. Even a bit on the side. Okay, let me just come up from above. Yeah, that looks good to me. So, next thing we are going to do, whoops, is cure it. Got a lamp here. It's just a typical ordinary LED nail lamp for like doing gel UV nails, but it works just as well for doing UV resin as well. So over it goes, and just pop it on, and it should go for about 2 minutes, which should be enough to at least solidify it. It might still be a little bit sticky afterwards, but it'll at least be solid. Okay, so once the lamp goes off, you should then test it with your toothpick. Have a layer. It's a little bit rubbery, but it has cured. As I say, with darker colours like grey and black, it's going to take longer to cure because it's not letting as much light through to the layers underneath, which is why you need to do it in layers like this. So I am just going to pop it in again, give it another blast, and then I'll be back to continue when we have a solid layer. Okay, so after a few more curings, it does get harder. The first layer isn't going to be that stiff because it's just very thin, but you do want to make sure that it is as cured as possible. So that's what I've done there. So really, all that's going to happen now is to just keep doing that in thin layers, as thin as you can get it, until it's built up to the next layer. So we're just going to carry on doing that, and well, I'll show you the results when we get there. Okay, so that should all now be done. We've raised it up to the same level as the middle bit here. It's solid and cured. So we're going to move on to the two halves now. Now, Pokeball, the typical traditional Pokeball, is red and white. I don't have a solid white colour. Again, similar with the black, I have a translucent one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix that with silver. I have some light silver glitter powder there. And because I don't need as much as I did with the dark grey black colour there, I'm just going to mix it straight on to the mould itself. So if I just pop a little bit in the middle here, because the middle button is white, and then this half here is going to be white as well. So I just need enough to cover that half. I'll put out more later, but for now we're just going to get a first layer down. Take a little bit of this white silver glitter powder here, and just roll it around a little, mix it in. Gonna need quite a bit really, I think. But again, we are going to be doing it in layers. So just crunch it up a little. Unfortunately, there are lumps in this. It doesn't matter so much if we go over the black lines, because we're going to be viewing it from the other side once it's finished. And then when we complete this side, I'm just going to have it all be red all the way around. So we won't have to worry too much about staying inside the lines, as long as we don't go over onto the red half, of course. So just keep mixing in more of this silvery powder. It's starting to become a little bit more opaque. And make sure we get some in the middle button as well. Again, we don't want to go over to the red side. And there we are. So that's going to be the first layer. Yes, we'll make more layers so that it becomes more opaque, but before we do that, I am once again going to take the translucent bottle. Again, it's a brand new one, haven't opened it yet, so this is going to be my first time using it. There we are, snip off the top. A couple of drops either side. Stir it around. You can see it does fade out because it is supposed to be translucent. Well, it is translucent. I'd have to use a lot of the pigment to make it look more opaque, which is why I'm mixing it with the glitter. The glitter helps it look more opaque, gives it more colouring. But there we go. That's okay for a first layer. There are a few little bits where you can see the colour of the mould underneath, but again, as I say, we're going to do multiple layers of this, so that will cover up later. Just need to make it a little thicker, but for now, for the first layer, not looking too bad. So we're just going to go through the same process as we did. Cure, pour, repeat. Well, pour, cure, repeat, I suppose. So I'll be back when I've done a few more layers of this and you can see the result. Okay, so we are back again. We've done the white side. I think that looks opaque enough, really, to stop the red showing through, because we're going to do the red next, and we're going to do red all the way around. So we've got just standard plain red there. So what I'm going to do is mix in just a little, tiny little bit of glitter, just to give it the kind of shine that the rest of it has. And just smoosh it around. Should give it a little bit more of a metallic sort of sheen like the rest of it. Let's just do a little bit more. There we are, because we have got quite a deep red there. If we mix it through, it does start to bring the sparkle out just a little bit. If we use the loose powder on top rather than the clumps. Okay, and then we're just going to pour the red on this half first of all, because that's where we want it most importantly. This will be our first layer of red. Just to make sure we cover everything on the other side. Okay, there we go. So that's covered all really well. Again, doesn't matter too much if we go outside the lines around to the grey, because we won't be able to see it from the other side when it's all finished. So we're just going to do it again, cure that layer, do another one, and repeat the process. Okay, so those are the two halves, all done, taken care of. They are cured and mostly solid. This one's still a little bit rubbery almost. If we just, there we are, scoosh the extra to the edges there. There we are. You do need to check after curing that, well, it has indeed cured, because it might not. So this one, as you can see, needs a little longer. So I will be back when we're ready. Okay, so we've let it set a little more, cure. It's still a little bit spongy, but we can deal with that later. So what we're going to do now is finally cover the whole of the cast with red. I haven't put enough in here, but that's fine. We'll top it up once we're done. Just squeeze out as much from here as possible. And again, this is a very dense, thick colour, so I'm going to dilute it out a little bit with just some plain, and then just spread it around to cover the whole mould. I think we're going to need a little bit more resin to thin it out, just to make sure we get a nice even distribution. We'll do one final layer on top as well at the end, just to make sure everything is level. So we just let that set as well. Okay, so with everything cured and done, I've put one final layer on the top to make it nice and smooth. So now it is time to demold. Just peel around the edges and pop it out of the middle. We've had a little bit of leaking around the side, but it'll wipe off. There we are. And then we have our shaker, red and white. A little bit of leaking which hasn't cured there, but that's fine. We have some wipes to kind of wipe it off. So we have our molded piece. And so to finish it off, what we need to do is fill it up with shaker pieces and glitter and things like that. So I'm just going to wipe it down, clean it up a bit, make sure it's all nice and smooth, and then we'll start on filling the inside and see what we're going to put in there. Okay, so here we have our little Pokeball charm we've cast, nice and smooth, all ready to decorate. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop our little bits in. We've got our Pokemon bits, and I thought what we'd do is a little evolution change. So in the top we're going to have a little Charmander bit here. He's going to go in there, and then underneath we're going to have the Charizard bit. He's evolved into Charizard, so that'll go in the bottom. And then we're also going to decorate it with some of our other things. We've got some orange hearts, we've got gold glitter, and then we've got some of our shaker pearls. So first things first, our two little boys, they're going to be set in the middle of each part. They can move around in them. There is enough room for them to move, just about, and that'll be a little easier once we've added the shaker oil as well. So first we'll put in the hearts, a couple here and there, distribute them about both top and bottom, and always spread them out a little. There we are, some on top, some on bottom, and a little bit of regular ordinary gold glitter. Oh, I need my other tool for that. Just a little scoop. Then a couple of the shaker balls. Let's see, what colours do we have? We've got a couple of yellow which could match the orange-yellow colour scheme of the Charizard and Charmander, and a couple of plain white ones as well, because you can't go wrong with a plain white. And then a few of these little glass orbs as well. These are all assorted colours, and they're very small and very fiddly, so I'm not going to worry too much about what colour I get in there. But just going to have to scoop them out like this, so they don't get in tools very well. Oop. And I think, actually while I think of it, let's pop a white ball in the central button as well. Go. So the next bit comes when we have to put the film on top of the shaker. So let me just retrieve my shaker film. Okay, so here is my shaker film, which is cut to fit the charm here. And the first thing I want to do is take off the protective film. This is just to stop it from getting scratched when you're cutting it to size. And just peel it off. There we go. A nice shiny finish. So the next thing to do is we take our resin and we put a small amount just around the outside of the charm, like this, and that is going to give us a sticky purchase to pop film onto. We're just going to lay this down there, press it in so that it sticks. It will overflow just a little bit, but we can always take care of that in a moment. Get out one of our sticks just to scoop up the excess, press it down, make sure it's pressed down flat. And while it's pressed down flat and you're putting pressure on it, make sure it's straight, obviously. Okay, so we remove it out from under the lamp here, and what we're going to do is just make a little bit of space here, and you can see it's all sealed around the edges there. It's all been cured, so the next thing we're going to do is give it another layer over the top here to make sure it's nice and even, and it gives it a nice smooth shiny finish as well. So we just pop a spiral around to make sure we've covered all of it, and then use the tool just to spread it around again as usual, just to make sure it's covered all the gaps. And the resin that I'm using here for this is the thinner stuff, so it'll spread out more easily. It'll sort of follow gravity to sort of spread out and cover the whole of the surface, but you just want to make sure you get it right to the edges so that there are no sort of uneven surfaces around the edge there. And spread from the middle to the edge if you need to. You can always put some more in the middle afterwards. Again, as I say, as it's the thin type, it'll kind of roll back in, if you get what I mean. And then once that's been done, once you've spread it all around the thin stuff, we pour some of the thick type resin in the middle, which will spread out from the middle, and sort of the weight of it, the thickness of it, will push out the thin stuff. And again, this will just help you cover the surface. I'm just going over the little spots I can see that hadn't been covered. Spread it out a little more slowly this time, just in circular motions, just to make sure I get the whole of the outside. Okay, just gonna fold it over new surface. There we are. Wipe off the excess from around the edges so that it won't stick, and cure again. Okay, and after we've cured, we have a nice solid piece. There we go, nice and shiny on the top there. Got all the little bits rolling around in the middle. So the next thing you need to do is we need to add the oil. So to do that, we're going to drill a hole in the side here Just do it down the bottom there so that it's close to the line. Okay, and once you've drilled through, you just need to get that back out, and you've got a tiny little hole in the side there. So what you're going to want to do is get your syringe, flat ones preferably, just to avoid poking yourself. I do have sharp ones, that's because of a mailing error, but flat ones are just as good as well. So it has to be filled with your shaker oil. It can be baby oil, or you can have silicone oil or special coloured oils, and then you just inject that through the hole. As you can see, it is filling up, it's swirling through the glitter, and that'll just make things a bit more floaty on the inside. You can leave the shaker dry if you want to fill it with more rattles to give it a more rattly sound, but the oil shakers are more for showing off the floaty glitter and making sort of like sparkly patterns and things like that. So it's a matter of preference, but we're going with the oil shaker for today. Okay, so eventually you will fill it up. Something like this, it's rather big, it will take quite a lot of oil to fill up, but once it has, just wipe it all clean, make sure the surface hasn't got any oil on it, because you will need to pop a little bit of resin on it just to cure over the hole so that it doesn't leak back out, and the oil will inhibit the curing of the resin, so you do want to make sure that you've cleaned it up properly, and just spread your resin over the hole, get a nice layer around, smooth it out so that it doesn't appear too bumpy at the end, and then just cure it. Okay, and once that's all cured, just do one more quick layer of resin to provide that final shiny surface at the end, especially sort of like around the edge where you just cured the hole. I've done thick type around the edge there, and then in the middle the thin type, because the edges are going to be the most difficult bit to get, but you want to make sure it's nice and even in the center as well. And then follow that up with a little bit more thick type in the center, and then just spread it out again, just to make sure you cover as much of the surface as possible. Okay, so once that has finished curing, you've got a nice shiny piece, but there are a few bits around the edges here that have leaked over. It's only a thin layer though, so we're just going to take the scissors to snip away the bits that have overflowed. There you go, nothing too major. We're going to sand it down at the end anyway. So for the most part, looking good. A few little uneven bits on the bottom as well. As I say, we can always file those off when we've got like sandpaper. I've got a little emery board here, which is good for smaller pieces. It saves on the sandpaper, which is going to be for like large areas, but if it's just small areas like this, an emery board or a nail file is fine. A little bit extra there, I'm just going to snip that off. There we go. It's good just to have a little pair of nail scissors. Basically a nail care kit is good for tidying up the edges of your pieces. There we go, just a little bit extra to make sure it's all nice and smooth. You can always add a little bit of spot resin here and there. If the colour fades, just mix up a little tiny bit, spread it along the edge and cure it as you would. Or just pop on some resin polish if there are a few dull bits after sanding, because sanding will ruin the finish. But a little bit of resin polish usually sets it just right. So, with everything sanded, you can take a look at the finished piece. There's a little bit of dust here and there from where we've just sanded, but overall, very nice and shiny. And here we are, all the glitter on display. Some of it tends to stick a little bit on the inside, but that's what the shaking is for. The finish is nice and shiny, and we've got the little bits on the inside as well that will float around when you move them, and that is our finished piece. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. Leave a comment on video with your thoughts and what you'd like to see. If you like my stuff, hit subscribe and help hit my channel's goals. And don't forget to share, tell your friends, and help me hit my current sub goals so I can give back to you guys too. See you next time.